The Monarch Platform is about a 1 year old maybe, well, in terms of the concept, or probably 2 years in terms of the concept, but 1 year in terms of formalised. And what it is essentially it's a holding company. We don't like the idea of an overarching holding company, the typical sort of, big brother type business. We wanted a platform business, being essentially a garden bed. And we use the diagram of swan plants, given the monarch butterfly. The swan plants and our swan plants are the businesses that we essentially cultivate. We cultivate the people and the companies to be the best that they can be. Essentially, we try and grow extraordinary companies. So Monarch Platform is a shared service platform that's came out of Hortus. Hortus is the main business that I started almost 17 years ago. And Hortus is a labour and property management company in viticulture primarily. That's since expanded into labour in Hawke's Bay and Bay of Plenty. So we now do grapes, kiwi fruit and apples, a little bit of medicinal marijuana as well. And then with the inception of Monarch Platform, we also broke out their property management and machinery side of the business and set up a new company called UCO. And UCO specialises in property optimisation for viticulture in Marlborough. And the goal is to grow the garden bed, put more businesses in there. I'm looking for sector specialists, so people, from my experience, people, maybe it applies around the world, but certainly here in New Zealand, is they're really passionate about what they do. They set up a business and then they very quickly become a business owner who was something, i.e. a plumber, a roofer, but they don't have any skills, experience, expertise around running a business. They are just what they are. And there's nothing right or wrong about that. But what we've developed is essentially a safety net insurance policy for those sector specialists so they can continue to be great at what they do with the support of what Monarch Platform offers. So the goal now is to find more sector specialists. I think we've been using Faraday and Henry for must be 6 years, I'd say, close to. Henry applied for our chair role, so we had disbanded our original one of our advisory boards, one being it was the second version of it. We felt that we needed a change of direction, some new inspiration, different guidance and expertise. Wanted to grow our network, so we advertised for new advisory board members and a chairman or chairperson. And Henry came through that process. We were surprised that anyone applied, and we ended up with a lot of people applying, which was pretty humbling. And then, so we met Henry, went through that process, and here we are. Yeah, so Henry was very good, very articulate, obviously got a lot of experience. I think it was interesting. I think it's probably my first experience of a person interviewing you that you're interviewing. Done his homework, knew a lot about me, knew a lot about the industry, knew a lot about the business, asked a lot of interesting questions around what we were trying to achieve, where we were going. That allowed me to then ask how did he think he could support that, and through that conversation I realised that he probably had a lot of the skills that we were missing in terms of that advisory space. He was aligned from a values and purpose perspective, and he was a straight shooter, and having someone that can talk straight and was really important to me. I'm dyslexic, so sometimes I struggle to communicate what I'm thinking, but also I need people to be tolerant with my mindset because I bounce around all over the place. I have a different style, and I think he's adapted to my requirements really, really well. Succinct would be it was a fucking nightmare. But quite simply, we were really, really busy. I just appointed a new advisory board, and then all of a sudden they were immediately giving me homework. So I thought this wasn't quite how I planned for this to go. But nonetheless, stuck to the course. He explained it really well, the benefits of doing it. So that sort of was really good for me. And also, I love accountability. So all of a sudden I knew I had to deliver these things for them to have the best for them to have the biggest impact possible in advising our business to go forward, they needed a really strong base to work from. So ensuring that I did a good job allowed them to do the best job they possibly could. So for me, that 90 days became really important very quickly. Just trying to squeeze it all in was quite difficult. How I'll do it again in the future would probably really dedicate more time to it over that period of, a day a week or whatever, as opposed to trying to squeeze it in the evenings and the mornings. So maybe a little bit more advice, guidance around that. But all in all, it was a really good experience and set us up for a lot of the discussions that we have had since. Yeah, we've probably done all 5 of those big moves at various points. We're actually having a discussion at the moment about being disciplined around 3 of them. Just given what's going on geopolitically, in our local economy, the main industries that we operate in, particularly the wine industry that's struggling, is making sure that the 3 big moves we're working on are sustainable and serve us for the long haul. So for us, one of the big moves was an acquisition of one of our competitors. Another big one was acquiring a purpose-built facility and then expanding that. Looking to bring in investment, so making sure we're setting up a business for long-term investment. We know that we can only take this so far. Our business, all of our growth has come off the profit that we make year on year. So at some point, we're pretty close to hitting that point now where we're going to need some external investment. So setting up the business for that success or that next leap is really important. So for me, the big moves, it's not just about making the big moves, it's about putting the groundwork in so you can make it when the time comes right. So for me, it's about understanding which move you're trying to make, putting the work in, preparing for that big move, and then when the time comes, executing it. The Hulons and levels. Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's probably a bit of a bigger discussion, that one, than that. You have to really look internally, because all of a sudden, where you think people are at and where they actually are, it can be 2 different things, primarily based around the success or the slow moving pace of the business. So if the business is growing and the opportunities are there, you need people to step up. I think the biggest thing for me over the particularly last 12 months is compression. You can only ever work one level above the person that reports to you. And I think that's one of the issues that we've got in our business at the moment, or we've had, is compression. So, but our strategy is quite clear. We know what we're doing. We know what the big moves need to be and what they look like. Work's in progress to pull that together. And the Hulons and levels have been reshaped. So we've actually recently restructured our leadership team and executive team and the management team now. So we've closed those gaps on those levels. We went too wide and we compressed down to maybe 3 or 4 levels, but we've now refined and made the business more aerodynamic so it can move a lot faster. I think it's about being honest with yourself. I think there's 4 key elements to a person being successful in business. Being financially and commercially competent. I'm not suggesting I'm a whiz at any of these things, but I'm okay. I can hold my own. I've surrounded myself with really good people who are very commercial and very financial orientated. So that, I think, as a person, I'm relatively strong in those 2 areas. The other ones is being really purposeful about what you're doing it for, and then having the ability to back it up. And what I mean by that is grit. Being able to turn up every day and get shit done. So for me, those 4 things are really, really important. If they've got those, then aligning themselves to Faraday means they're already starting from a really strong place. And then if you're appointing an advisory board, my advice would be work really hard to get the right chairperson, get the right person, do the 90-day plan, then work through that over the course of a few more months to really refine it with that chair, then create the job descriptions for the advisory board, and then get the chair to go and recruit those advisory board members. Because if you're the owner, operator, managing director, CEO, whatever it is, if you're recruiting the board, then you're now responsible for them as well. And for me, you need to elevate the chair to actually manage those expectations, manage those on boards, and using the 90-day plan to do that. So their role would be to go find them, onboard them, bring them in so they're immediately adding value in that very first meeting. So for me, the more effort you put up front will be the benefit or long term. I think in time it will be. For me, I think Faraday is like 5 years, I think it's almost as old. I think it's a relatively new concept. I think it's taken some time to embed in. Advisory boards are a relatively new concept in New Zealand in terms of how they're used and managed in terms of businesses. Unfortunately, the economy is not necessarily supportive of a luxury item like an advisory board. At the moment, it's very governance orientated around hitting your compliance and covenants requirements. So I think the benefit of a cohort or Faraday network will be really beneficial long term, especially as we do come out of the little hole that we're in as an economy. As you start to bounce out of that, being surrounded by like-minded people that are facing similar issues to what you're facing in terms of growth issues, growth difficulties. I think being surrounded by those people will be really beneficial.